All right. So last time we have last time we discussed how to kind of read effectively uh, for in preparation for a writing task, and the writing task remained essentially mysterious to you. So this time we're going to get into talking about what the writing task itself will look like. And that writing task is called rhetorical analysis. So rhetorical analysis on the AP exam for this class, there are going to be 3 essays, and 2 of them are argument essays, which you're essentially familiar with. One's called synthesis, which is an argument where you have to use sources, and one is just called an open argument, which is an argument that you will have to make without the benefit of any sources, like on the SAT, for instance. The rhetorical analysis essay is the one that's going to be probably least familiar and most challenging to you. So it's the one that we're going to start with now and in the fall, and it's the one that we're going to take the most time with. So for this presentation, you're going to be looking at the part of the packet that says, it has a space for your name, and it says AP English Language Rhetorical Analysis Exercise Number 1. So there's a space for you to take notes. On the back of that page, there's an excerpt, actually not an excerpt, the full text of Lou Gehrig's famous speech. There's a soapstone chart for you to fill out, and then at the bottom there is a writing assignment, which you'll have to submit to turnitin.com. The writing assignment, the suggested due date is the 13th, which I'm recording this on the 9th. So you have slightly less than, you have less than a week, you have Monday to Friday to do that. I'm going to post the second assignment, or the third rhetorical analysis exercise number 2. I'll post the materials for that also today, so you'll have much more than a week. If you get those both to me by the second due date, that's fine, if you upload them both by that time. So the first thing to talk about is sort of background on rhetoric, because the word rhetoric is used much differently now in our sort of modern parlance than it was when the word originated. So the word originated in ancient Greece with Aristotle, and rhetoric, according to Aristotle, is the use of the available means of persuasion. So in other words, what we're talking about when we talk about rhetoric is someone using language to be persuasive or to make some point. So rhetorical analysis is going to be the work of determining kind of how an author or a speaker was persuasive or made their point. If you want to read Aristotle's book on rhetoric, he has titled it cleverly, I think, Rhetoric. And it's very long and very, Greek. The use of rhetoric, the use of the word rhetoric to mean sort of like empty speech, when politicians tell each other, oh, you're just full of rhetoric, in that sort of, with that negative connotation of it meaning, meaningless, kind of vapid speech, political speech, is relatively new. So rhetoric, the way that we're going to talk about rhetoric, is this way. So the use of language to be persuasive or to make some point. The task that you're actually going to do is called rhetorical analysis, or rhetorical analysis essay, rhetorical analysis writing. Rhetorical analysis is a way of analyzing someone else's writing, and your goal is going to be to explain how rhetorical devices, how an author uses rhetorical devices to create a certain overall effect or to serve some larger purpose for his or her audience. So if we break that down, rhetorical devices are tools that the author uses while writing to make some point or create some effect. We're going to get into like a long list of rhetorical devices. We're going to start with one today, and we'll add more as we go along. The purpose, which you should already know, is the purpose is the speaker's goal in delivering his or her message. It's what the author is trying to get the audience to do or to think. And here we have also a picture of Aristotle's head, in case you're wondering what his head looks like. So the first rhetorical device that we'll talk about is diction. And this is the simplest, and it's often the most powerful. Diction is simply word choice. It's the words that an author chooses to employ. So what we're looking for when we talk about diction It's not a single word, but we're looking for a pattern of word use. So perhaps an author uses a series of words that have a very negative connotation. You could say that that author is using negative diction. Perhaps an author uses a lot of very technical, sort of scientific words in a speech about, I don't know, the need to improve science education. You could say that that author is using scientific diction or technical diction. The diction, the pattern of diction, or the pattern of word choice, will most often suit some one of the author's purposes. So it's not enough to say just that the author uses diction, right? Because that's obvious. The diction is just words. Obviously, an author is using words. So it's not enough to say that the author uses diction. Diction on its own is not really a device. You have to use some adjective to describe what sort of diction, what kind of pattern of word choice you see in what you're reading. So this is not a comprehensive list of adjectives that you could use to describe diction, but it could be elevated, it could be casual, scientific, conciliatory, combative, formal, informal, emotional, detached, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on. If you notice a pattern, describe that pattern, and you can often analyze that as something that serves the author's purpose. The last thing to note is that diction is one of many devices that can create tone in a piece of writing. And tone is going to be also quite important to our purposes here. So let's talk about tone. Tone is the attitude that an author or speaker takes towards his subject. So you can use many devices to take a tone, or to make a tone. We just said diction, but if you think about like figurative language, metaphors, similes, personification, anecdotes, short stories can create a certain tone. Sentence structure, syntax can create a tone. Lots of things can be used to create a tone, and the tone is honestly probably one of the easiest things to kind of pick up on. If you read a piece, you probably have a good sense of its tone. But it's also important to note that creating a tone is not a purpose in and of itself. Tone is one of many things that that an author can employ to serve some larger purpose. So, for instance, if the tone of a piece is, sad or somber, maybe the author's purpose is to, make his audience sad or reflective or something like that. But tone in and of itself is not a purpose. So those are two devices, rhetorical devices, that you can think about. And now we're going to get into sort of the format of rhetorical analysis paragraphs or essays. So on the very basic level, this is what a rhetorical analysis paragraph will accomplish. You will identify the author's purpose, you will identify rhetorical strategies, and you'll explain how and why those strategies serve the author's purpose for his audience in the context in which the speech was written, or the text was delivered, or what have you. So you're connecting strategies to the author's purpose for his or her specific audience. Hopefully that makes sense, because that is the key to everything that we're doing. To get more granular, more detailed here, the rough format of a rhetorical analysis paragraph should be this. You should have a strong controlling idea. We're going to call this a controlling idea. Other people call it a topic sentence or a claim or a mini thesis or whatever. At the beginning of your paragraph, you should have a strong controlling idea that signals to your reader what this is going to be about. What your paragraph needs to be about, what you need to express in your controlling idea, is some device or devices that the author uses to serve his or her purpose. That's what, for instance, if you look at after the soapstone chart, if you look at the sample opening sentence, that sample opening sentence includes a device, and the device would be hopeful and positive diction, and then the author's purpose, which would be to deflect any pity fans might feel for him. Once you have a strong controlling idea, you should get into giving context for some quoted examples. Now, these quoted examples should be very short. And by very short, I mean usually 1 or 2 words. Um, there's hardly ever need to quote a full sentence. So they should be very short, and they should be embedded within the syntax of your own sentences. You don't have to worry about citation for now. And then finally, analysis of how these devices create some overall effect and serve the author's purpose for his or her audience. And then the final thing to note, and this is very important, is that your paragraph should be more qualitative than quantitative. So in other words, quantitative refers to things that are objectively there. So for instance, if you say, Lou Gehrig uses positive words such as a blessing. That is something that is objectively in his speech. That is not your original idea. That is just something that you have noticed. So if you think back to that kind of pyramid of the hierarchy of annotation, at the bottom and in the middle, those things are both quantitative, right? The understanding what the text says, that's just quantitative. Identifying devices that are there, that's just quantitative. Those things are objectively there. The really important thing is the top of that pyramid, where you explain, where you give your analysis of why the author has chosen to use these devices to serve his purpose. So that's your intro to rhetorical analysis. What your assignment is to read Lou Gehrig's speech, complete the soapstone chart on the next page, and then you're going to write a short paragraph, your first crack at a rhetorical analysis paragraph. You type it out and upload it to turnitin.com. The assignment is there for you. If you have any trouble with that, please do get in touch with me. The assignment is there for you. There's a sample opening sentence that you can use if you feel like you need to. But I encourage you, obviously, to write your own. I think that's more or less everything that I have to say to you. Your paragraph should be about, I don't know, I would say aim for half or 3/4 of a page typed. It should have a controlling idea. It should have probably 2 analytical chunks. So an example and analysis, and then a different example and analysis. And those could be 2 different devices, or they could be the same device, whatever you think. Okay? So I'm going to start giving feedback on these as soon as I start getting them. So whenever you upload your paper to Turnitin, I'm going to start giving feedback, and I'll post some good examples as soon as I get some good examples, so that you can look and see what a good rhetorical analysis paragraph looks like.